Welcome to the Reclaim Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Season Hathaway. I am an NASM certified personal trainer with a specialization in prenatal and postpartum bodies. I'm here to empower you to find movement and exercise that is realistic, doable, and most importantly, meaningful to you as a mother, a caregiver, and a birthing body. I'm here to challenge how our bodies are talked about in the fitness industry. No more blind acceptance of weight loss and no more guilt and shame. Let's advocate for ourselves and reshape the fitness industry together. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, welcome to the Reclaim Fitness Podcast. I am so excited to kick off a very special series of episodes highlighting local perinatal providers in Monterey County. This series is proudly sponsored by the Birth Network of Monterey County, and it's designed to give you a look inside at the incredible resources available to support you on your parenting journey. Throughout this series, you'll have the chance to learn about a variety of local services and get to know the dedicated providers who are part of our vibrant community here in Monterey County. And whether you're an expecting parent, a new mom, or a new dad, or simply just looking for support, these episodes will connect you with some of the experts who can help you. Today we are starting it off. We're kicking it off today with, I think, the perfect guest who knows so much about the Birth Network of Monterey County and has just an amazing amount of experience here in Monterey County and just in life. And so okay, let me start. I have my intro. I wrote it up for you. Usually I ask people for intros. So I hope you like it, Gail. I wrote this all by myself with an MA in Pre and Perinatal Psychology and Health and a BS in Child Development. She brings an impressive 50 years of experience in the field. Her multifaceted expertise spans roles as a parent coach, a mom, a grandmother, an entrepreneur, a La Leche League leader, an IBCLC, and so much more. This all just makes her uniquely qualified to support your journey through parenthood and honestly support our community as a whole. In 1988, she founded The Parents' Place, which is a cornerstone for parental support in our community here in Monterey County. Her commitment to maternal and child well-being continued with the grassroots establishment of the Monterey County Maternal Mental Health Task Force in 2016. She founded and currently serves on the board of the Birth Network of Monterey County, which really just demonstrates her unwavering dedication to the health and happiness of families in this area. And as the program manager who set up the Parenting Connection of Monterey County, her leadership and vision have created lasting impacts. Her tireless volunteer work over the past 35 years and probably more was recognized when she was named Monterey County Outstanding Woman of the Year in 2002. And today she brings her extensive knowledge and compassionate support directly to your home through her parent coaching services known as Roots and Wings Parent Coaching. So thank you. We're going to learn much more about her. I know I probably missed some things, but thank you for joining me and welcoming an inspiring advocate for parents everywhere, Gail Root. Yay!
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Good. I'm so glad you're here. You're always such a joy to speak to. So I've been looking forward to speaking with you today. I'm going to try to keep us on track because I think we'll probably start talking about lots of things. But I think I wanted to begin by talking about your personal journey because you have such an amazing personal experience, as we all do, with not only just your life experience, but your parenting experience. And so I want to know who you are and what kind of led you to get involved with the development and the management of these local organizations here in Monterey County. I would like you to share your personal experience there first, and then we can get more into the Birth Network and what that does, if that works for you.
That's great. Well, I've often contemplated on where my role models were, what made my passion to be what I do. Um, I always wanted to be a mother. I just wanted to grow up and have kids and make brownies and make Halloween costumes and be the room mother and just do all of those things. I ended up with after we got married, we were free and childless for 7 years and had a great time exploring life. And then I had a surprise pregnancy that ended in a miscarriage. So that was a journey. That was a journey which led me on to understanding the fact that a loss like that is something that very few people ever talk about or acknowledge. So that's something I've always been able to acknowledge once I had some more skills to other mothers. And then I went through a 3-year journey of infertility, which was like, what is that all about? This is what I'm supposed to do. And then I had my first daughter and took Bradley childbirth classes and was so enamored of that education and component to see how that impacted me and my birthing choices and experience that I became a Bradley childbirth educator. 3 years later, I had my second daughter, and a year and a half later, had my third daughter. My husband was in the military, and so we moved many times when my girls were really little. Teaching childbirth classes was something that I was able to do from one military post to another one. And I met amazing families along the way. Then it was like a natural flow. Then people would take a class and then asked if I would be their doula. And like who would turn down the offer of going to a birth? Not me. It's a pretty amazing, special, awesome, sacred time to share with a family. And that was back in the days, that was like 45 years ago when doulas weren't charging. It was just, you got to hang out with people and support them.
Yeah.
So as the time went by, then we ended up in Monterey in 1985. And I began looking for work to just help put a little extra grocery money on the table. And I started a postpartum support business called After the Stork. It was really interesting and fun, but it was not reliable. Some weeks I might have like 3 clients and I couldn't fit them all in. And then I go 2 weeks with no one. But the weeks when I got busy, so I then, began to train and hire some people, but the irregularity wasn't something that worked well with my life. So I was lucky enough to meet someone who had set up a program in Salinas through the Parent Center. And from there, I reached out to the Pacific Grove Adult School and proposed, those days we called them Mommy and Me classes. And then it just grew. And people say, well, how did you know to grow such a big program? I said, I had no idea going into it. I was just doing one class at a time that became 2 classes, that became 4 classes. I just held on, white knuckled it, held on. Those things grew and had so much fun and was so privileged to be able to just support people, and then needed more teachers and had the most amazing women be part of the teaching program, 3 of whom who are still there today teaching and holding the fort down. At one time, we had over 500 families a week who came to the program, and we had about, like, I don't know, I can't even remember. We had like over 25 different classes that we offered, and um, it was really really big. And then times changed. The adult school ended up needing to charge more money, and it became unaffordable for some people. Uh,
Mm.
at times changed, but it's always been there. It's been solid, and I retired about 10 years ago, and am still loving running into not only the families that attended, but now running into their children, some of whom have their own children. So that was like, whoa, that was like, oh my gosh, that was a
Yeah, I bet.
pretty amazing
I
thing. It was so much,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
I didn't.
I told you earlier, I didn't realize that you were, I knew you were involved with the Parents Place, but I didn't realize that you were like the one that built it from the ground up. And that is such an amazing thing. I know as, I mean, I've only been a mother for almost 7 years now. And I know that has always been something that I knew was available to me. And it was just like the first thing people say is like, have you looked into the Parents Place yet? Like, that is like, as soon as they found out that you had a little one, it was like, do you go to the Parents Place? Like, that is one of the main sources of information and gathering for a lot of parents and their children. So that is so huge.
Well, it was meant to be, and as I reflect, what I remembered and learned was that during the years when my children were very little, we were in a military communities, and it
Mm.
didn't take me long to figure out that you cannot parent in isolation. This is not something that you can go off and do on your own. So I would be in a neighborhood where there were many children and families, and you could always find someone with children near your child's age. And so I thought, well, let's do a play group. And I would get together with, 5 or 6 moms, and we would do a play group every week. And then I thought, well, gosh, we need to learn more than what we have here, or more, way more than whatever I thought I knew during with a degree in child development. I knew nothing. And
Yeah.
I would invite people from the community to come and talk and share what they knew. And so then I also started babysitting co-ops wherever we lived, because
Oh,
that was
wow. Yeah.
how do you support getting out and doing things. So by the time we landed here, oh, I know, you know what? When we lived at Fort Irwin in Southern California in the desert, that's a very, very isolated place, 60 miles on a
Mm.
two-lane road from Barstow.
Oh,
And
wow.
talk about isolation.
Yeah.
And so I went to the company post commander and said, "This is not okay. Give me a room." And so he gave me a room about the size of someone's living room. And I painted it and brought my kids' old toys over, and just organically created some mom groups, because talk about isolation. That was that
Oh
was
my
that was
gosh.
truly truly it. So when we
Yeah.
ended, then a few years later ended up in Monterey, um, I already had kind of that. I didn't know it, but I had that experience, that vision, that
Mm.
structure, that model for doing that. And I just think that there was nothing back in those days. Now, my gosh, we've got all kinds of mommy walk support groups. Even the recreation department has got something going on, and many many places is available. I think what stands out about Parents Place, though, is the education that the teachers provide for parents. There's that educational component. There's always a handout and a topic for each week. So it's more than just a play group. There's a very strong educational component and a very strong emotional component. The teachers are all very um, well trained, but they're also just have such a big heart and so much compassion. And it's a
Mm.
very, very safe place to be for anyone who goes there. There's a lot of partners who come these days. There's a lot of grandparents who've been coming who are taking
Yeah.
care of the children. So it's just yeah, I'm
It's
just
very,
privileged to be able to be part of it. It's been wonderful.
Yeah. It's really grown into something so beautiful.
Yeah.
And especially like you're saying, like this parenting can be extremely isolating. And I think we all experienced a lot of that during COVID as well. And
Oh,
so, so I feel like we're learning very much that how it can feel to be physically isolated, and then how important it is for us to build those communities around us. And now that, our society is kind of not as much built around having like those familial supports, it's so important for us to build those things around us, create non-familial supports around us in ways that, we can get the information we need as parents, and that community that is so important to
exactly.
us.
Exactly. Yeah. I still get together twice a year with my friends called the Playgroup Friends. I met these women when I was like 8.5 months pregnant with my first daughter at a La Leche League meeting. And then we have stayed together all these years. So, so this group of friends, we have been together for, the birth of our babies and um, the breastfeeding and then the birth of our next babies and taking them food and taking the toddler to the park um, and then we had a lot of moves and then we ended up back in the area and then got to back together and did camping trips with all the kids who were then of school age and continued those camping trips together, the play group. And the kids all got along just beautifully. They didn't know each other, but they just all played until the
Mm-hmm.
kids got in high school, and then they began to have other things happening. And then we collectively, the four of us, decided we didn't want to sleep on the ground anymore at a campsite. And so then we began leaving the kids behind and would meet at a hotel and enjoy that kind of a gathering. But we've been with each other through all of the life transitions that take you from when you are early mothering to now we're all in our mid 70s. And there's just a whole lot of life transitions that have gone on between then. So those
Mm.
friendships that you develop during this early parenting time when you're so vulnerable, um, and you build a bond that is going to be solidified with not all of them, but with certain ones that you feel that have that connection with. It's going to through you through all these ages and stages of. We think it's the ages and stages of our children, which it is true. It starts off as that, but we have ages and stages to go through as parents and just as people. So
Mm-hmm.
this is such a precious time to be able to slow down enough to reach out and build and nurture those relationships.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I know for me, I have mothers that I am still very much very close with. We meet, um, we try to meet every week from the mommy and me classes that I did with my first son. So
Wow.
and they're all going to different schools. Like they're not even in the same circle, but we are still in our circle. And that is so important for us as we go through, like you're saying, our own stages of life, where like now, we're moving into having our second children or our third, and then we are also moving into a period of time where maybe we are caregiving for our parents, and we're experiencing these other stages of life, and we're all able to kind of go through them together, which is really important. I think once we leave school, we lose track of people that are going through the same life stages as us. And so finding ways to connect with people that are going through those periods of time, especially as parents, is so important. And the fact that you've created so many resources for us here in this area where we're able to find those connections is so important to just like the fabric of our community, because our
Mhm.
community is made up of parents, and that
But I,
is
I
just
want
so
to be
important.
really clear, Susan, that it wasn't just me, that
Oh
there were
yeah.
many, many, many people who had their blood, sweat, and tears and passion involved in making this happen. So I just want to be real clear that you know it's not just me.
Of course.
I'm the oldest of four, so I'm the bossy big sister, and I guess. as my younger sibs has told me, so um, I think I just had that. I didn't ever thought I was a leader, but I guess I had that passion and leadership to just keep pushing boulders uphill. And that's
Yeah.
what a lot of it has been. It has been a lot of pushing boulders uphill because when you try to design these things and make these things happen, um, I've been up against the bureaucracy of schools and the
Mm.
bureaucracy of the medical system and the health
Hmm.
department. And there's so many bureaucracies that stand in the way of finding these ways to support families. So I think maybe it's just because I'm stubborn and a control freak that I have been the one to just keep on pushing. And then I've also had some great cheerleaders behind me as well.
Yes. I'm going to continue
Yes.
asking. I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to go
Yes.
grab my kiddo who's crying.
Okay. Yes. Great.
I did want, so yes, I know there are so many people involved in building these things, but I also know that a lot of you. Oh, hi! He made his way out here himself.
Okay.
Come here. Hi. Hi. Say hi to
Hi.
Gail. Look. Say hi,
Hi, buddy.
Gail. Just woke up.
Hi.
Kind of
I know.
tired.
Just waking up from that
Yeah.
nap is hard.
Yeah. I also know that you all, as caregivers yourself, all of us, right? And especially within the birth network, I know all the providers that I've met, especially those that do postpartum care and things like uh, being a doula. Like, we always are putting others before ourselves, and we are always pushing boulders uphill, right? It is a fight, it is a challenge, as is motherhood and parenting. And so I am. It's a lot of hard work. You've done a lot of really hard work over the years, and I
Yeah.
know there are so many people who are appreciative of you and all the others that helped you in the midst of that.
Thank you.
But I do want to get into a little more of the birth network. I know I'm interrupted you in your personal story.
Let's
So
move
you
on.
can, yes, continue. Oh, you can, and you can feel free to continue with
I think
how.
one thing I want to say about my personal story was that when I had my second daughter, um, my first two babies were 3 years apart, and after I had her, and she was a really sweet, easygoing baby, and I just felt like I was taking care of her. I didn't have the sense of immediate overwhelm, um, mama bear love that I experienced with my first daughter, and it was
Hmm.
really scary for me. Um, I could do it. I couldn't understand what that was, and of course, as many mothers who go through some type of postpartum difficult experience, I was afraid to tell anyone.
Hmm.
Because and here I had these close women in my playgroup friends, but I was even afraid to tell them. Um, so I struggled for a long time. Somewhere along the lines, I realized there was a time, and I can't tell you when it was, that I absolutely was as um, bonded and in love with her as I had experienced with my first one. So I've always been passionate and have always done things to create resources in the community for postpartum mood and anxiety disorder, and have
Hmm.
spent so much time working on trying to educate families, educate professionals. Yeah, that's right, buddy. Educate the neighbors, the grandparents, to help remove that stigma and remove that shame and make it be okay to find safe people and knowledgeable people to talk to about that. Um, so that has always been kind of a side passion of mine, is to make sure that we have those resources. At Parents Place, we did create a postpartum support group and a warm line. And then that followed through when Parenting Connection grew, and it continues today. So there is that warm line, not a hotline, but a warm line where people can call and get information about resources and get referred to. In Salinas, through the Parenting Connection, they have some groups that you can go to. Birth Network is very pleased to have a group that they sponsor once a month in Pacific Grove for postpartum support. It's all free, and it just is. I think that has been my overarching and overriding passion, which I then, of course, when I think about it, I trace back to the wish that I had when I was going through that, of trying to figure out where do I reach out. Back in those days, there would have been nowhere to reach out, and also, as we know, that even today our medical system is not as understanding or knowledgeable about this topic as we wished that it could be, and back then it was even less so. So I just want to use this opportunity to say, for anybody who is going through a difficult time or observes a family friend or member, that there are resources to gather information today on what different types of experiences postpartum people may have. 1 in 4 mothers, and we're finding out now that 1 in 9 fathers. So it's not just the quote unquote the mothers, that it's so many things. And yes, we can talk about the list of risk factors and the list of that and the experiences, and there's a lot of things that go into it, but it doesn't really matter if this is where you're at. Please reach out. If you are listening to this somewhere and you don't have anywhere locally that you'd like the Birth Network to reach out to, or the Parenting Connection, then I know that Susan will have my email address, and I'm more than happy to talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere, hold that space, and help locate resources that can see you through there. It's just an ongoing, challenging process that we are not doing enough about.
Yes, thank you so much for talking about that. And I think I can say almost as a guarantee that anybody who is in this kind of field of work, anyone who is kind of a provider within the perinatal space, I think is almost hyper aware of the mental health, the lack of resources available, the lack of knowledge around perinatal mental health and just perinatal health in general. And so we are so ready. I feel like we're all so ready to hold space for that. I think many of us, in fact, experienced it ourselves and experienced that big void in our healthcare system around our mental health, and it felt like no one was there for us. We didn't have that safety net. And so I think a lot of us got into this work because of that. We realized like there is a need and it needs to be addressed. And so we are all so ready to hold space for anyone who feels like they aren't in a place where they're feeling mentally healthy, or they're, questioning things, just like you're talking about in your experience. Like, I know I had that experience with my second pregnancy where I was like, I don't feel right and I don't know how to talk to anybody about this. And I actually called a warm line, and I was able to get someone to just talk to me about it and let me know that this is normal or this is very common, and or even that I had those resources available. Even just to know that someone was there and was so helpful. And so, yes, 100%. I'm there with you in that if anybody's listening to this and feels that way, that there are places you can call. I am in the show notes. I will put all of the information for the Birth Network and Gail as well, how to get in contact with her. And you can contact me as well, and I can help you find those resources you need. But thank you for bringing that up. I always love holding a space for that within these episodes as well, because I think all of us, there's a good chance that somebody is listening and is experiencing that. So thank you. How do you feel like the Birth Network is kind of bridging that gap? Let's talk about the Birth Network. So
first, love to.
First, let's start with the mission of the Birth Network, kind of how it started. Talk to me. Tell me about it. I'm a part of the Birth Network, and I feel like I am lacking in my information in terms of like what, like the very basis of the Birth Network, kind of how it started, why it started. I'd love to hear more.
Well, back in 2004 and 5 and 6, there were a bunch of us rabble-rousers in town. Ruth Gingrich, who was a pediatric nurse practitioner, and Maggie Bennett, local midwife, and Sonia Massey, and just we were all passionate. We were all part of something called the Childbirth Education League, and we brought speakers to town, raised funds, brought speakers to town to educate people. We had Marshall Klaus and Suzanne Arms and James McKenna. And we just had all these wonderful people. And then that began to dissolve. There had been a group of doulas who had been working together, and then that group kind of began to dwindle down because it's really hard to keep a group going. So a lot of us got together and just created the Birth Network with the vision of we're dedicated. I'm just going to read this. We're dedicated to empowering birthing persons to honor and celebrate the birthing process. We envision a community where parents can access resources to make informed choices for their birth and early parenting experiences. So that's a big vision. That's a really big vision to have. The mission is to protect the birth experience by providing parents and their families with education, resources, and advocacy. I think that advocacy is a really, really, education, resources, and advocacy. So it started in 2007. We then, and I think by 2015, I don't have these numbers in my head, we were able to become a 501c3 nonprofit, maybe sooner, I just don't remember, which then established the legitimacy of it, enabled us to be able to write for grants and just be able to move forward with things. The group, Birth Network, has always been a compilation of members in our community in the perinatal year. So we might have a nutritionist who focuses on pregnancy. We might have doulas. We have midwives. We have therapists experienced with maternal and paternal mental health. We have, like you, the fitness people who know that. So I know I can safely refer a pregnant or postpartum mother to you because I know you understand the dynamics of that very tender perinatal year. We have chiropractors, functional medicine doctors, parent educators. All kinds of people who. So it's an ability to share resources with our community. Here are people that you can reach out to. Along with that, networking goes all of us who are in the birth network to know who each other are and what kinds of skills are there and who does what, so that if as you're working with a mom in that area of perinatal fitness, if you're noticing some signs of postpartum mood and anxiety disorder, you at least have that on the top of your head. You can go home after you've worked out with her and do some more reading, and then you can find some gentle ways of talking to her and saying, well, one thing that many mothers have found, and give her resources. So it's networking each other. We have meet and greet events 3 times a year, just for we're usually at a park, and just so kids are coming, and we meet at the park so that the kids can play in the swings. And I always bring my box of glue and glitter and collage stuff so that the kids can have things to do, but we get to talk about who we are and what's going on. We have an annual meeting every year where we get together, and again, another opportunity to find out who each other are and review all the amazing things we've done for the year. We have a once a month Meet the Doula event where people who are planning on having a doula or want to know about a doula can come. It's like speed dating. So there's, maybe 5 doulas and 7 families. And so everybody gets a chance to kind of go around and meet and talk about who that person is, because just like selecting a car mechanic, you need to select someone who feels good to you and safe with you for something like that. On the other months, we have a What's a Doula on Zoom, so that we can just share what is that. It's still interesting that a lot of people today don't know what a doula is. And a doula is someone who mothers the mother. There are doulas who support women prenatally. There are birth doulas, and there are postpartum doulas. So there's many different ways there to support people. We also have once a month Parenting 101, where that's on Zoom and where we offer a variety of really important topics with the most amazing facilitators who are members of the Birth Network, who are experts in their field. Coming up in June, we have the topic of pelvic floor health. And that's one of our most widely attended ones. We've got topics on breastfeeding, childbirth education, vaginal birth after cesarean, just topics that are just really, really things that might be a little hard to find some good, solid information on. I'm also pleased to say that we now have our newsletter going on a regular basis, and we have figured out technology, how to use technology to our advantage. Not me, not me. I can do the content, I don't do that other stuff, but we now have our speakers give us a handout on the topic before that evening, and then we send that handout to everyone who registered for the class, whether they attended the class or not. The newsletter then, following that month, we talk about what the topic was, and then there's a link so that you can go straight to our website and grab that handout on that topic that you go, oh, I meant to go to that, or you look at a list of topics and go, oh, that's interesting, I forgot about that one. So I'm just really so excited to see that we're finding ways to extend the education. We have not yet, before COVID, we did things like have usually once every year or two a well-known speaker come to the community and talk. And that took some funding to make sure that happened. And but we just haven't quite gotten back to large groups.
Right.
And I think that with Zoom, people are just, it's just easier to zoom in on Zoom and be able to stir and cook your dinner while you're listening to whatever's going on. So I'm not too sure how we're going to see that happen. We're an all volunteer board. So
Right.
being part of a group that's all volunteers, and everyone who's on the board, they are all young mothers with young children
Yep.
and other jobs.
Right.
So
Or they're running their own business, right?
running their own business. So
Mm-hmm.
really work hard on trying to have what we call mom-sized jobs so that, people don't get overwhelmed with what we're asking them to do. And
Mm-hmm.
we're always looking for new board members. If this, in hearing this, is something that you go, oh, I'm curious as to what that's like, or what does that mean being on a board. The
Mm-hmm.
time commitment is um, 2 meetings, usually 1.5 to 2 hours, one meeting once a month, usually 2 to 2.5 hours. And then throughout the year, we do try to table local events. So we need volunteers to stand at the table and say, hi, how are you doing? When's that baby due? And
Sure.
showing information. So we're just a tremendous, amazing community resource of information and networking and sharing and just encouraging families to you don't know what your options are if you don't know what your options are. So if you
Right.
go into anything, whatever it is, without understanding the choices, and you just kind of stay with what you've always done, or stay with whatever professional has been leading you,
Mm-hmm.
um, eh, without gathering information. And then if you don't gather information and make choices, you might be surprised and maybe sometimes disappointed as to how that journey, that birth outcome takes you. So we really like to educate, and there's a lot of talk these days in the medical world about informed consent. And it's
Mm.
the first time in all my years that I'm beginning to hear that um, talked about, to hear that and to actually see it. I was at a birth maybe 2 months ago, and
Mm.
there was a lot of discussion with every step of the way of that particular woman's journey, and with talking about, well, here is what we think should happen, but here's the pros and here's the cons. So
Sure.
I think we're very slowly, I think the traditional medical world is slowly beginning to catch up and realize that women who are pregnant, people who are pregnant, have a choice.
Yes.
And informed
Yeah.
consent helps them understand how to be part of any decision making. And that's new. That's something that I haven't seen in that's new information that I'm seeing in action. And that's very exciting.
Yeah, that's yes. I'm so glad to hear that you like witnessed that yourself. And I know I know even in my personal experience between my two births, I had two very different experiences, and I cannot tell you how empowering it was to be able for with my second to make decisions for myself and to even have that discussion, and so it is so important. And I think the fact that there are also now resources available to us so that we can even know that we have the ability to advocate for ourselves or people to advocate in our stead, and people who know what our wishes are so that they can support us through that, is so important. And I know even as a provider myself, having the birth network as a resource and even to be able to let people know, like, here's one place that I can lead you to that gives you lots of resources. So even if right now you're only looking for a doula, like, go there, look for your doula, and then know that in postpartum, when you're ready to find a doula for your postpartum period, or maybe find some mental health resources or some parenting coaching resources, it's all there. It's all right there. And you know that all of the providers in this network are following that mission statement, and they are all for the advocation of of women and mothers and parents and what their wishes are, and trying to help support them through that. and help them find the things that they need and want within their
Exactly.
parenting experience.
Yeah. Right.
And that has just been so valuable, even to me personally, but also as a provider, to be able to pass just that information on, to just be able to say, did you know about the birth network, is so wonderful, because I know that they can just go to the website and find so many things that can help them, even things that they didn't even know were available. And that is such an important thing when it's so hard. Even, I mean, it's hard to gather information, even when, I mean, we're already struggling, probably, right? We're already going through a difficult time and trying to find, sorry, I'm trying to keep an eye on my little one
Yeah.
at the same time.
Right.
But to be able to have one place to go is so important, and makes it so much easier for us.
And I also want to add that I know there are times when people even just get overwhelmed going to the website and looking for help with breastfeeding or things like that. Well, all they have to do is send an email to the birth network. I check the email a couple times a day. I
Mm-hmm.
will I will return someone's email, or I'll talk to them on the phone to try to help them navigate the resources. Because when you're in crisis, or you're worried about something, or you're exhausted, or fill in the blanks, sometimes having that warm hand, as it's called, to help you understand where you're at and to direct you, because it can be overwhelming calling. Um, 5 different people who did some kind of lactation stuff. One of the questions you had on here about, I did want to, challenges with perinatal care and gaps in the healthcare system. You
Yes.
know, I did want to use this opportunity to address that, because
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I'm puzzled. Sometimes I'm puzzled that we still have the number and the depth of the gaps that we have. I'm just
Yes.
like going, how can this be?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And then I often, and this does nobody any good, but I get very angry. I get
Yeah.
very, very angry because
Mm-hmm.
I today, even today, still find women, families falling through the cracks. I
Yes.
hear about it afterwards, and I hear their stories, and it's just gap after gap. And these are people, some of these people are well educated people who are just, and the gaps are still there. Well,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think the more we work, the harder we work, the more we educate, the more people you do it. You're doing this on your podcast. You're gifting information to a much wider audience for people who might not have thought about this topic, but they've got a neighbor across the street with a granddaughter, or whatever. So and the more people understand, particularly in this field, that we are consumers, that
Mm-hmm.
we are the consumers. You think, oh well, I'm not, my insurance is covering everything. Well, okay, but who's paying for your insurance?
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, my work pays for the insurance. That's money coming out of your pocket, girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
That is, you are paying for it. Just like when you, I don't know, go to Big Bottle and buy a big TV and it doesn't work. You
Mm-hmm.
take it back, or you get an adjustment, or whatever. So we need to understand that we are consumers and we do have choices to make. Um, and then I guess the other part of me wants to say, takes a lot of patience for me to say, to be, I want to say, to be graceful when we see these gaps, and then try to educate so that that gap does not happen to the next family that comes along. But
Mm.
for me, that's the hardest part of doing this work, is finding the gaps, finding the people who fall through the cracks, um, the lack of resources, or there are providers out there that give not up to date or incorrect information. That's
Sure.
extremely difficult. It's just uh, not good information.
Yeah.
And then seeing that continue to happen, but then again, there's this bureaucracy that makes it very hard to make changes.
Yeah.
So I think our biggest job is to empower families, pregnant people, pregnant families, to empower them to learn what your choices are and learn that um, even though you may be stuck into a big system, whatever your insurance does, there are alternatives outside of your insurance, but many people cannot financially afford some of those alternatives. But to learn what the choices are and to advocate for yourself in ways that feel genuine with who you are. And I do want to say that for anyone who's having a baby, that if there is any way possible that you can hire a doula
Yeah.
to walk that journey with you. If you've got money in your kid's college fund, take it out now for the doula, because
Yes.
that investment is going to pay off 1,000-fold with this most important experience in your life.
Yes, yeah, I'm all for doulas. Like, I had a doula with my second, not with my first, so I know very much like the difference that it made. And I agree. It's even just nice to have someone who has experience in that space, not even just during birth, but someone who could even give you information on the resources that are available. And for many of us, getting that almost like a second opinion, right? Where you're getting kind of that other information. You can give or take, like whatever is helpful to you, but at least you're getting that information. You are not being left in the dark. Which I think a lot of people, like you're saying, they very much rely on our healthcare system to give them all the information they need. And unfortunately, our healthcare system, there are a lot of gaps, and there is a big lack of information out there. And I think a lot of us feel like we have to settle for that, and we don't have to settle. We should feel empowered to get the best care that we want and that we need, and to try our best to have the birth that we would like to have, and the postpartum care that we would like to have. And I think getting that information to know what is even available is a really important first step, to know that like you will likely need postpartum mental health care, whether or not I mean, not even waiting to see if you need it, but setting it up beforehand and just having it there as that support system should just be like regular care, right? That should be something that should be already provided to us, but it isn't. And so even just knowing that that should be something that's available to everyone, and then demanding that when it is not given to you is so important. And so much of what the birth network and the parenting connection, even the parents place, is providing that information to all of us, spreading it so that we all know what's available, and just know that we can ask for it. Because I think we are, I don't even think it's just isolated to the birth experience. I think as women and as people birthing bodies, as people who give birth, a lot of times we are told not to speak up and not to let people know what we need. And so I think it is so important to have others around us telling us, like, you are allowed to ask for the things that you need. You are allowed to ask yourself what you need and fulfill that. So yeah, I am so glad that there are things like that in this area, because I know as a parent, this area can be limited in what's available, and I know in widely other places that's the case. And so even if you're not in the Monterey County area, I highly recommend that you look around and see if there's something like the Birth Network in your area. There are even national programs that can help you connect with local places like Postpartum Support International, organizations like that, they help to connect you to local people that are close to you. And like Gail is saying, you can also just reach out to anyone, and I almost guarantee you that they would be happy to hold that space for you, listen to you, and then help you find something close to you, even if you're nowhere near us. Because we have all been in that position. We know how important it is for you to get that support. Hey there, moms. We're taking a quick break in the podcast. I'm coming to you with my messy hair in my messy kitchen because that's all I have time for today. And I know a lot of you can relate. We all know that the journey into motherhood is filled with really beautiful moments and, let's be honest, a lot of challenges. For a lot of us, one of those challenges is when we reach that 6-week postpartum doctor's appointment, when we're cleared for exercise, and we find ourselves at a loss as to how to exactly start moving again in a way that doesn't lead to injury and frustration and burnout. If this is you, I am thrilled to share something special with you today. If you're looking to gently reintroduce exercise into your life postpartum, my 12-week Reconnect, Rethink, Revive postpartum fitness program might be just what you need. My program is designed with your busy mom life in mind, offering daily 15-minute workouts that are imperfect, realistic, and tailored to your life as a mom. Each session is crafted to help you form the habit of taking a little time, just a little, each day, just for you, to nurture and strengthen your body with grace and understanding, and knowing that it's not always going to be perfect. But it's not just about the workouts. My program includes educational workshops where you'll be learning about your body, understanding the muscle groups that need the most help postpartum, and discovering the why behind it all. Knowledge is power, and I'm here to empower you. Plus, you'll have access to group coaching with me, a certified personal trainer who specializes in postpartum bodies, and you'll join a supportive community of other amazing moms who are on this journey with you. So if you're ready to reclaim your fitness and your sense of self, visit www.reclaimfit.com to learn more and join me today. I want to make sure that we also talk about your coaching business and what you do with that, because I think as we move, I feel like even in, we talk a lot about birth, we talk a lot about the actual birthing experience. And I don't know that we very often think about post and even years post once we get into the space where we're actually having to parent, right? and do things like understand our kids and honor them, or teach them, and how we do these things. And I think it is starting to be more available to us to get information on how to do that, especially for a lot of us who are trying to break cycles within parenting where, our experience with our parents, it hasn't necessarily been a healthy one. So tell me more about what you do with your parenting coaching.
Well, my business is called Roots and Wings Parenting, and I've been doing it for a long time. And it's the opportunity for a family, if they want some help in figuring out where they're stuck with the parenting, whether that be, the breastfeeding or the new baby stuff, or the 2-year-old tantrums, or the sibling relationship, or we've got a 5 or 6-year-old that is getting in trouble at school, or all the way and up. There's areas in our parenting where we get stuck, where we just do. Some of us have unicorn children, and that's just what it sounds like. But most of us get stuck periodically. So when someone reaches out to me, what I like to do, number one, is hear the concern of the parents. What gets you to that point of desperation where you're calling for some kind of help? And if it's a family with a child under the age of 5, I find out the age of the child and send a assessment tool called Ages and Stages. which just does like 6 questions in 5 areas of growth and development. So it's just a little snapshot to see how our kiddo is doing in um, social skills and speech and motor development and gross motor skills and things like that. So it's just a little snapshot to see where we're going. If we have a child where I'm hearing a lot of discussion about the child's social emotional skills, a lot of dysregulation. Um, then there is another screening tool called Ages and Stages Social Emotional, which is um, several pages of questions about behavior, child's responses that then I can, and this isn't the right word, but score. But anyway, there are norms, as we all know. There's that whatever we call it, that graph up and down.
Hmm.
But it, you know, there's a range. But when we're out of that range, then it's like, I wonder if something's going on.
Mm.
So the first thing I like to do is review with parents, no matter what age the child is, for each child in the family, because this is a unit, the ages and stages of growth and development. So if they've got a 9-year old, I'm going to send them the handout on ages and stage of a 9-year old. And we're going to look at that to figure out where does that 9-year old fit in there. I also then, the second thing I like to do is I like to have them fill out a temperament guideline for everyone in the family, because these are 15
Mm.
questions that were developed by Chess and Thomas many, many years ago. And it's like, your activity level. Some people, as we know, are
Mm.
just on the go all the time, busy, busy, busy. And some people are happy to, read a book at home on the weekend. And so that's where we're at. Then we have our children. And so sometimes some of these areas are just not a very good fit. So if
Sure.
we've got parents who are just go, 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 and and then we're going to go camping here, and then we're going to go hiking there, and then we're going to this track and that, and the gym, and climbing the gym, and you've got a child whose innate temperament is one of not being highly active, then the parents are going to go, well, why doesn't always have to drag them out of the house to go do this? Well,
Sure.
there's no good or bad or right or wrong. Sometimes we just kind of like don't have a really good fit. So when
Yeah.
we look at these different characteristics, and I have them fill the form out for each parent, fill it out for where that parent is, where the other parent is, or another key person that's with the child, and where the child is, and then I have them compare. Then, oh my gosh, we got all kinds of perspectives going on.
Mm.
And a lot of times there's some aha moments there of, oh, I didn't know that's what you thought. Or
Mm.
so a lot of times just having this understanding of where our partners are can help us understand more. Um, so I like to look at the template of the ages and stage of growth and development. I like to look at the template of the temperament, and then zone in. I like to watch the family and go hang out in their home for about an hour, and watch the interaction. That way I get to see the child and get to watch and see what goes on, see the environment, see what kind of expectations the family has for the child. And then I like to meet alone with the parents without the children for an hour, where we can really hone in and specifically come up with some tools that
Mm.
are personalized and work specifically for that particular family. So it's not like just, oh, well, you've got a 2-year old, their temper tantrums, well, then here, A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Right.
Um, I want to, I want to do more of a comprehensive review. Sometimes, if there's things that show up on the ages and stages, and the parents are kind of going, well, I kind of thought something was going on, then they have something that they can take with them to their pediatrician. And
Mm.
so, you know,
Yeah.
I've been telling you now for the last 6 months, XYZ. Um, Someone who's a parent education specialist with their master's, we did this well known forum. And can we spend a little more time talking about this and learning more about how do we go and how do we approach this. I don't diagnose. I'm not a
Mm.
therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I stay in my lane.
Sure.
If needed, I do a lot of referrals.
Mm.
Um, I'm working a lot in these last few years with families who have children who are on some kind of the spectrum early on, and we're just discovering where they're at. A lot of times with children with ADD or ADHD, that before they've been diagnosed with that, but they're not um, fitting in, or they're not blending into
Mm-hmm.
school, and they keep getting the preschool teachers saying, "Oh, Johnny, this or that." So being able just to support them in getting help for their child and navigating that and supporting them in their journey, because it is really hard parenting, number one, even if you've got unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us have them. And if there's more than, and I always say that, God should only give one unicorn per family, because the needs are not fair if there's more than two.
Right.
Um, but also, to support the parents with helping the parents know that it's okay to set boundaries. The last thing that I want to put in there too is that helping parents understand that usually when we get stuck with a certain stage of parenting, uh, let's just say we've got that 3-year-old, and we are just going, I don't know what's going on here.
Sure.
We look at all these other things, and then um, I hold curiosity, and I will say, Season, um, I'm wondering what your family of origin was when
Mm.
you were 3, and you go, oh, I don't know, I can't remember when I was 3. And I understand that, but where were you in your family lineup? And you go, well, I was the baby of the family, and there were 4 of us.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, okay. And then I go, well, from what you know of your parents' lives and temperaments and personalities now, how do you think that maybe they responded to you when you were 3
Mm.
and you were whining?
Sure.
And 90% of the time you'd say, oh, well, they would say, oh, be quiet. You have
Yeah.
nothing to complain about.
Sure.
So now, that was the message you got. So now when you've got your 3-year-old who's whining, you just completely get triggered and go off the rails.
Yep. Yeah.
Whereas then if we have that aha moment, like we go, oh, then we realize, and then I say, well, what would you have, what, from what you know now about parenting, what would you have liked your mother to have been able to say to you then?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you'll say something like, wow, I can tell you're really disappointed about that.
Mm. Yeah.
And then your whole system goes, ah. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have this amazing ability to do a little bit of reparenting on yourself
Sure.
and with great deep empathy, and then you are able to not get so triggered by your child. And the next time your child is tugging on your skirt, and then you stop for a minute and take a deep breath and lean down and go, I know, you seem to be really frustrated. You want mommy to hold you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all your child needed, was just to be heard.
Yeah. Just to be
Um,
validated in that
just to be
moment.
validated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like I said, I'm not a therapist, but I mean, I've been around enough that I kind of help people see some of the connections where then they have their own aha moments.
Sure.
And then there we can begin practicing how to say or do what they then would like to say or do. And then I see them again, and they're just going, oh my God, that just was. But there were times when they did succeed. There were times when they did stop and pause before they yelled or said something that was totally unreasonable. And so
Yeah.
I said, look what, you have an opportunity to practice again.
Yeah.
And because
Absolutely.
at just about the time when you get that little thing settled down, then you have a little
Uh-huh.
plateau, then there's going to be another
The
growth
next thing.
learning
Yep.
opportunity.
Yeah, we get lots of practice as parents, don't we?
Yeah.
I know. It sounds like you really approach it from like a holistic viewpoint rather than just kind of like honing in on the one problem that they're kind of experiencing or the one thing that's most challenging. You're looking at not only the behavior of the child, but also just like how everybody is interacting and how, what other things may be affecting the situation, including, the history of the parents themselves, which I think we're all finding, or I've heard more and more, and I know for myself it's helped a lot. uh, like that is becoming more of an understanding of how we parent. It's not so much about adjusting the child's behavior as much as it is about understanding our childhood and what we were told when we were kids and how we were parented and how that affects how we kind of interact with our environment as well. It's so interesting. And I know I've done a lot of work around my own childhood and my own healing processes, and it's hard. It's a lot of work that I think a lot of us didn't even realize we would kind of have to do sometimes.
Oh, yeah, we don't know, but if we're ready to learn, then it's just learning opportunities to help grow the next generation in a way that we think about, oh my gosh, how are these kids going to handle their children? I hope that
Yeah.
so I'm at the point where I've got 4 grandchildren. So I have
Mm-hmm.
this amazing, beautiful opportunity to watch the way that my daughters parent,
Yeah.
and things that they're able to say, not because what they learned from me, but because it has been growth. But what I wanted to say was, we can read all kinds of books about discipline, or we read books on all kinds of different topics, and they will give you a lot of generic ideas,
Sure.
but without understanding the big picture,
Yeah.
um, sometimes we keep, it's like throwing a dartboard trying to figure out, oh, does this technique work here? Does that technique work there? Or all that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, looking at the total picture, we're able to not just have it be a recipe, do this when your child does that, but to understand where they're coming from. And
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is that, and I'm seeing it out today, and some of the verbiage is to connect before you correct.
Right. Yeah.
I love
Having
that term.
Yeah, it seems much more seated in like compassion and kindness and
Yes.
understanding as opposed to like, I don't know, the traditional sense of discipline, right? Where you're just kind of, getting them to do what you want them to do without coming from a place of understanding and I mean, it's definitely easier. It feels easier in the moment where you're like, I just want you to do what I need you to do right now. Like, I don't have the patience to take a minute and figure out what you're feeling. But, sometimes in the long run, it kind of does make things go by a little quicker when you take a minute and just like, okay, let's figure out what's going on. Let's talk to you. And, it just, yeah, I know. Yep. That's definitely something. We're in between. We're at. We've got a 1.5-year-old and a 6-year-old, and so we've been through like the 3-year-old stage. I know you. I feel like you picked that stage on purpose, where it's just like that's a hard one, for a lot of people, and it's we're reaching that with our 1.5-year-old, where he's learning how to ask for things, and it's he's definitely making his needs and desires known. And so with that comes a whole new stage of parenting. Even for us who have been through it before, now we're doing it with two. And we're doing it where one wants something as well as the other one. And now what do we do? And so, yeah, it's constantly learning new things, constantly feeling like you're not I know for me, it's like, I'm not very good at this, where it's just like, I'm always learning. I'm always trying to figure this out. I'm always trying to adjust. And it can really, take a toll on your self-confidence at times. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have someone that you can kind of refer to, go to and ask for advice or, The fact that you come into their home and like kind of see what's going on, it feels very like, you know, you're acting as a guide and a holding hand, somebody that's there to
Mhm.
help.
And sometimes it's just, in brainstorming, because it's not me saying, oh, here, do this, or this, but it's brainstorming. And sometimes there's just easy ways of kind of reconfiguring environmental redesign, reconfiguring the way that the furniture is, or how
Sure.
about if we have, I was with a family a few weeks ago and very, very busy boy. And
Mm,
I'm looking for that this family needed a climbing slide in the living room.
sure.
But they had a small place, but there was a patio right on out. And I said, well, do you have one of those little small trampolines that he can jump on? And oh yeah, we have one of that. And I said, well, where is it? Oh well, it's in the back, and you go back and around. And I said, oh, um, is it possible? Could it be put on the patio here? So he was able to go jump on it and you could
Mm,
see him and it was accessible. And they went,
yeah.
well, huh? I said, and to me, that's going, oh my God, that's the simplest thing. But I've been doing this for so long that I'm able to see those things. And we just, as parents, can get
Oh my
caught in the weeds.
gosh.
The other thing
Absolutely.
I think that we do need to note is the challenge that we have today in most families, we have two working parents. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have families where both parents are exhausted.
Oh yeah.
Both
Yep.
parents are simply exhausted, and there needs to be a certain amount of energy to maintain making sure people get fed and there's somewhat kind of clean clothes to put on when you're out in
Right.
public. And there's got to be some kind of foods in the refrigerator, and so that our bandwidth um, for all of those things is just so stretched
Yes.
that then when it comes to being able to parent our children, a lot of times we just take the easy way out
Mm-hmm.
because there's no more bandwidth to try to hold the boundaries or the energy to try to do other things. I'm talking about when they get older. Right now, the little ones demand it, and you've got to be right on top of them. But
Yeah.
so I think this is a very, I think it's probably true in all periods, but I think because of the busyness of the families and as children get older, the whole issue with the technology, this is a unique time for parenting. There's some unique challenges that parents have.
Yeah. Yeah. As I think as we move through generations, like each generation is kind of faced with something new. And I
Mhm.
totally agree with like I tell my own clients all the time because a lot of them come to me saying like I don't know how to get exercise in. I keep trying to do an hour long workout. I can't fit that in. Like when am I going to do that? Or I'm so exhausted I don't even have the energy to think about exercising. And going back to like you're coming into a home and saying like, well, why don't we just move that here? And it seems so simple, but we as parents are coming from a place of exhaustion a lot of the times and sleep deprivation, and it's amazing how much that affects not only your mental bandwidth but also like your problem solving skills, right? Like your ability to think through things. You're dealing with the same stuff every day. It's kind of getting fresh eyes on things can really help.
Mhm.
And that's what a lot of the services, like coaching services, can do is help you just kind of give you a leg up, give you a little boost, whether it be like inspiration or just that new set of eyes on your schedule or your home. And the way that you interact with the people around you, like it can really make a huge difference. These small things that we just come in kind of put our hand on your shoulder and say like you're doing an amazing job, this is a hard thing and we're here to help, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. I feel like we could continue talking for a very long time, Gail, and maybe
We
we
would
need
have so much fun talking,
we need to
but this
just
has
go
been
out.
a lot of fun. This has been a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate you taking the time and energy to do your podcast and to have this season be focused on the resources that the Birth
Yes.
Network offers communities, offers our community. And if other people in other communities hear this and want more ideas as to how to put something together,
Mm,
again, please reach out. There's lots of models and there's lots of templates. No one needs these days to reinvent the wheel,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
We've learned there's no point in doing it all over again. So
Yeah.
uh, I'm here for anybody in any way that can be. See, that's my job these days. I'm a crone, and the crones,
Yes.
get to share their wisdom because we've made so many mistakes. Not because I know so much, because
Yes.
I've lived it and because I've made a lot of mistakes. And
Hmm.
and some things we just have to go through on our own. And there's other times when we can listen to someone who's done those things and go, well, I don't have to do that. I don't have to do what she did. So it's
Yeah.
not because, we know so much. It's just because we've just been around.
Yeah. Oh
So
my gosh. I feel like I could have a whole conversation with you about that. I feel like we should have an episode on even just how empowering it is for like younger generations to be getting, communicating with older generations, especially women, right? I think older women for so long have had this stigmatism around them, and I think we're just starting to find the importance of life experience and helping to pass down information that as younger women moving into that stage of life, how important it is for us to communicate with all generations and speak to each other and teach each other the things that we need to know as we move through our life. And so I mean, your knowledge, even like you're saying, from making those mistakes, what that's doing is you're passing that knowledge on to us so that we can climb even higher and provide even more information for the generations to come. And we value that so much. Everything that everything that you've learned throughout your life is so valuable. And the fact that you are sharing that with us and you are so willing to just your time and your resources and your energy, that you're willing to spend that on teaching us those things, I cannot say how valuable that is to me, and I know to so many others in the community. And that goes for everyone who has been right there with you and stood beside you as you've done all the things you have. So I'm so glad that you're part of the community. And I'm so glad that you agreed to come on the podcast. I love talking to you. We'll have to go out and get drinks sometimes or something.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
We'll go hang
right.
out. Let me just say to our listeners, thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed getting to know Gail and everything that she does, not only in the Birth Network, but in her own business as a coach. And to stay connected with the community here in Monterey County. And as Gail said, even if you are not here, to reach out to the Birth Network. Please feel free to visit the Birth Network's website at www.birthnetworkofmonterey.com. Follow them on Instagram at Birth Network of Monterey. And for more insights and support from Gail, you can go to her website, rootsandwingsparentcoaching.com. She also has an Instagram at rootsandwingsparentcoaching. I look forward to bringing you more episodes in this series, introducing you to some of the really amazing perinatal providers in this community that are part of the Birth Network. But until next time, take care and stay connected.
Bye, Susan. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Do me a favor and make sure to subscribe to my podcast so you know when the next one is ready. I'm not always consistent, so this is probably the best way to know. While you're at it, if you liked this episode, I would love it if you would rate and share with friends as well. I don't have many listeners yet, but I think these are important things for people to hear, and the best way for others to hear it is for you to pass it along. Also, be sure to look for me on Instagram at Reclaim Fitness LLC. And please check out my free Facebook group, where you can get lots of content, workouts, and information on a more regular basis. Go to www.facebook.com/groups/postpartum move. That's POSTPARTUMMOVE. The link for that is also in the show notes, so take a look. Thanks for joining.